TikTok has a lot of reasons to fight, but also it's made it clear that it is not going to be backing down quietly.
Absolutely. And this bill is looking like it's inevitable that it becomes law. The Senate is meant to take up this bill as soon as tomorrow, but certainly this week. President Joe Biden said he would sign it into law as soon as it passes both chambers. So the fast track to reality of TikTok facing this divestiture ban legislation is here. Now, ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese parent company, the company that the U.S. government has taken issue with, has also expected that it's going to fight this tooth and nail through the U.S. legal system. If this bill goes into law with the current language, ByteDance would have 9 months with a potential 3-month extension to divest the app. But that seems to be an action that would be the case of last resort for ByteDance, who does intend to draw this out and wage a legal battle that could last more than a year, according to people familiar with the matter.
Alex, what's the plan here? Is it to weather the storm and hope for a better administration somewhere down the track? And also, in terms of what's worse, is it a ban or is it divestment?
Well, if you do the math here on that timeline that they would have, let's say it passes this week, then that would put us right around January, which is inauguration time here in the U.S., as it is a presidential election year. So certainly we've seen TikTok in the past try to kind of lean into the idea of patience and looking for a more amenable administration. Donald Trump has changed his tune on TikTok. The man who was the first president to try to ban the app by executive order is now saying that it should, in fact, stay here in the U.S. So at the moment, if this bill does get signed into law, which Bloomberg Intelligence puts at a 90% chance of happening, then that might be their best recourse, is wait for an administration, if Donald Trump gets voted in, who is either going to drag out enforcement or might be a little bit more amenable while they do try to fight this on both First Amendment arguments and otherwise in the American judicial system.
Ali says the risk that this has a domino effect as well. I mean, could the US also be looking to ban other Chinese tech platforms? I think Temu, for instance, sort of seen as an Amazon competitor that's had a lot of success in the US, comes to mind.
Yeah, and any kind of connection to China has been one that has gotten intense scrutiny. The way this legislation is written is about basically social media companies who are owned or majority owned by a foreign entity. So that scrutiny around that Chinese ownership has come into play because U.S. lawmakers are worried that because of the regulations in China and how they can request data from companies in that domicile, that there could be some kind of risk to Americans. So there is certainly a number of companies, Temu is a great one that comes to mind, that might be concerned not only from what the precedent could be set from this current legislation, but also certainly how other countries might react to have America, who is the home to the biggest social media companies that aren't TikTok, now be saying, hey, look, this needs to be a company that's not owned by one of our foreign adversaries and potentially a company that's owned by instead American investors.
Alex, ByteDance also fighting a battle on two fronts across the Atlantic. There's trouble in the EU as well. What's going on there? They're staring down the barrel of a fine, right?
They are, and it's not the first time. This is actually the second kind of major moment. TikTok Lite was an app that was launched in both France and Spain within the EU bloc. It rewards users through a point system. And the EU regulator opened a new probe on Monday into whether ByteDance violated its content law because they're worried that this point system might have an addictive effect on users. They have 24 hours to deliver a risk assessment, so we should see potentially some news on this in the coming days. But it's not the first time the EU has gotten involved. The EU has previously announced an investigation under the Digital Services Act around the app's addictive design, around screen time limits, privacy settings, age verification. So all that to say, TikTok is waging battles not just on the American front, but certainly in other domiciles where there are either privacy legislation already in place or similar concerns about its ownership and its connection to the Chinese government.